In this video, we're going to look at the material for Unit 1 review, where you will be taking Quiz 1. And we're going to look over some different topics, and you will need to complete this handout and submit it in the Dropbox. First topics that we're going to discuss are the ideas of fractions. And when we look at a fraction, say for instance 2 over 10, we have the numerator, which is the 2, and the denominator, which is the 10. The denominator would be like telling you how many parts you have in a problem. So for instance, if I look at this circle and I start counting, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 parts. And notice the numerator of the fraction tells me how many to shade. So that'd be an example of 2/10, what it looks like, 2 over 10. Also, that fraction can be written as a decimal. If you take your calculator and we turn this on. Okay, so I want to clear my calculator. So I'm going to convert from a fraction to a decimal. I'm going to take 2 and divide by 10. And this is how you convert from fraction to decimal. So if you notice on the TI calculator, 2/10, if I push enter, notice I have 0.2. That's the same. That is 2/10. One decimal place after the one place after the decimal is the tenths place. So in these sections, you're going to be writing out the fractions. Now, this last one is a little different. On part C, it says, what would 4 over 0 look like? I want you to keep in mind, the denominator tells you how many to draw. The numerator at the top tells you how many to shade. This problem is going to give you something to think about as far as being undefined fractions. So you'll look at that. Okay, the next thing is it says in the number you have, whoops, I missed the page, let me bring it here. I've given you a table that tells you place value. And notice the main place that we're going to look at is the decimal point, okay? Anything after the decimal place, if I have one place after the decimal, it's the tenths place. I always think of a 10 having 1 0, so tenths is one place after the decimal. 100 has 2 zeros, so the hundredths place would be 2 decimal places, and it continues on. Notice one place in front of the decimal is the ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. So you're going to have several problems that they're going to ask you to give the place value of a number. And if you notice, like this 3 is one place after the decimal, if I come up here and look one place after the decimal, that would be the tenths place. So you're going to do that for several values here on number 2. Number 3, it says the fraction 2 over 7 can be written as a decimal. I just showed you how to do that. You're going to take your calculator, type in 2 divided by 7 and get the results. And then they've given you a number. They want you to tell what place value the digit's in. So for instance, they tell me the number 2. If I look at my number, notice 2 is one place after the decimal. We see that one place after the decimal is the tenths place. So you need to learn your place value. In statistics, you use this a lot. You're going to be rounding, and you have to know the places, because in MyLabs Plus it'll say round to the nearest tenth, sometimes 100, sometimes 1,000. So it's got different places. Okay, number 4 is going to be the same type of problem. They're going to ask you to determine place value, so you can do that one. Okay, the next one, how to convert fractions to decimals. I just showed you that. But then it says, and decimals to fractions. So let me show you this. We still have our 0.2, our fraction, our decimal, in our answer key. So if I come down here and I actually type 0.2 again, and I want to convert from decimal to fraction, on your calculator is the math button. If you notice right here, the very first one says convert to fraction. So I'm going from decimal to fraction. I'm just going to push enter. And notice it says convert -2 to a fraction. Hit enter again. Notice it actually gives you a reduced fraction. So notice 2 would have went into both of these evenly. and it'll give you the simplified version. So it's math, enter, enter. That will be used as you convert some of these numbers, decimals to fractions, okay? So you can do that. Now, rounding decimals, when you're rounding, notice it says when rounding numbers, the common rounding rule is the first locate the place value that you're rounding to. Look at the digit beside that value. If it is 5 or higher, you round up, okay? If it is not 5 or higher, you do not round off and you just drop off the digits. So here's an example. It says, look at the number 1 in the thousands place. So here's the number 1. So if you look beside 1, it's a 5. That means I'm going to round the 1 up to 2. So when I do that, my answer is going to be 3.242. See, I rounded the 1 up to 2. They're going to ask you to do some rounding in this. Very, very important topics. You will be doing this throughout this course and through statistics. So be sure that you go through each of these. Keep referring back to the table that I've given you. If that helps you, for instance, if it talks about to the nearest thousandth and you can't remember, go look and see how many decimal places are past how many places are past the decimal. It helps to remember however many zeros are in the number it's asking, that's how many places. So like the nearest thousandths, there's 3 decimal places in 1,000, so you'll round 3 decimal places. And so you'll be looking at the 2. Look beside it. If the number beside 2 is 5 or higher, round up. Otherwise, you just leave it the same and drop the numbers off after the rounding place. Okay. This one, placing decimals in descending order. That descending order means high to low. And it says, when placing decimals in order, fill in the missing digits with zeros so that all the values will have the same number of decimal places. Example, if you have the number 5.3, you can write it also as 5.30. It means the same thing. Use zeros to make each of the following numbers have 2 decimal places and then place them in descending order. It means high to low. So if you notice, this has 2 places, that has 2 places, this one doesn't, so you want to put a 0. This one doesn't have 2 places, so you'll put 0.00. That one has 2 places, this one needs to have 2 places. And then you'll just place them from high to low, descending order. Okay, and then the next thing is they're going to ask you to compare values. Now, if you'll use the concept up here of placing zeros to make them the same size, it makes it very easy. With an inequality, we have greater than and less than. The one that's in the shape of a L, that's less than. The other one is greater than. The opening always goes towards the larger number. So for instance, if I have a 74 and a 75, my opening is going to go towards the 75. So it's 0.74 or 7. If you think about it, tenths, hundredths, it's 74 hundredths and 75 hundredths. We're just thinking of 74, 75. Go make sure that all these values have the same number of decimal places. So be sure to put a 0. Think about this one. That one has 3. This one only has 2. Put a 0. That one has 4. That only has 2. Put 2 zeros. And then compare them. That's a special one. Make sure you pay attention to what happens with it. Okay, next thing. Comparing integers. Integers are your positive and negative values. And here's a number line that we have. Any number that is farthest to the right on the number line is the larger number. So for instance, if it asks me to compare a negative number, which is here, -4, and a positive 11, which would be way down here, we know the 11 is larger. The opening goes towards 11, so think about that. Next part says converting decimals to percentages, okay? And to convert a decimal to a percent, like 0.25, okay, that's the decimal. If I want to convert it to a percentage, all percents based on 100, so you multiply by 100. All it really does is move your decimal 2 places. So if I move that 2 places, I got 25%. So for instance, if I'm looking at 0.384 and I want to convert to percent, I move my decimal 2 places and I would have 38.4%. Okay. Now, if they do not give you a percent sign, then you have to write the percent sign. If they do, you just write the number in the blank. So, convert all those decimals to percents. Okay. The next thing that's in this is exponents. And with an exponent, here's an example of an exponent. This is 6 to the 5th power. The bottom number right here, the 6, is called the base. That's the base. The little small number is called the exponent. So 6 to the 5th, the base is 6, the exponent's 5. When they ask you to tell the meaning, what this actually means is write out 5 of the base. So notice I have 5 6s, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you multiply them. That's the meaning right there. When it says tell the meaning, okay? If they ask you to evaluate, they want the answer. So that means you've got to do 6 times 6 times 6, 5 of them. Well, our calculator will do that. 6 to the 5th power. Let me show you how to do this. So first of all, I need to turn this on. I'm going to type 6. Right above the division sign does exponents. And if I want to the 5th power, I'll put a 5. So notice how it does 6 caret 5. Hit enter, and there's my answer. That would be, if you multiplied 6 out 5 times, 7776. So that's how you'll do these exponents. Give the meaning, and then give evaluate. Now I want you to be very careful. This right here means 3 negative 1s. This right here means write down a negative sign and 3 1s. Be careful with that. Okay, it's a common mistake. Okay, another thing that they're going to ask you to do is square roots. And square root means tell me what number that can multiply times itself and get 16. Okay, well, on your calculator, above the x square right here, it's a little square root. If you push the second button and the x square, you get a square root symbol. If I want to type in 16, notice I have a square root of 16 and hit enter, I get the answer of 4. Because 4 times 4 is 16. That's a square root. Okay, so then they're going to ask you to take and make a chart. They're going to give you your x values. You're going to come over here and write each one with a square and then work it. So notice, here we're doing 2 squared is 2 times 2 is 4. 3 squared would be 3 times 3 is 9. So you're going to complete that table. Okay, now is where they're going to ask you to use your calculator and, well, no, I'm sorry. You're not using your calculator. You can, but you'll get the same answers. Like, for instance, if it says find the square root of 9, you're going to come over here and look in this list. Whoops, I got to find it. The perfect squares list for 9. So square root of 9 would end up being 3. And so you're going to do that for each one. So you can use your table. You notice right here it says find all the square roots with an S. That means you're going to give a positive number answer and a negative answer. Okay, type each of the problems in your calculator and check those. So you can now do that. And now they ask you to type those in on your calculator. And last is your order of operations. They're going to ask you to look at order of operations. It's please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. You always start off with inside the parenthesis first. So 6 minus 9 would be negative 3. 5 plus 3 would be 8. And so you're doing inside first, parentheses, then the exponents. So you'll do negative 3 squared. Well, negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. And then 8 squared is 8 times 8 is 64. And work them. Now, type the whole thing in your calculator and see if you get the same answer. They're going to give you a problem to evaluate, a couple of them.